Welcome back. All right, I want to talk about the salary cap because everybody's been talking about the salary cap lately, and we're going to be talking about the salary cap this summer. We're going to be talking about the salary cap beyond it and how general managers work their way around it, right? So I've got these 6 ways that I could come up with that GMs get around the cap or that we've argued about when it comes to the cap. Things that we've argued about. And none of this is against the rules. But some of this has been changed by the NHL, and then I want to get into this bit here too. Backdiving contracts. This used to be a much greater problem than what it is now. So what you do is you get a guy who's in his prime, and you go, all right, we want to sign him, we want to keep him, but in order to keep him and stay under the cap, we're going to tack on a few extra years at $1 million cap hit on this contract, so you drag down the average value of the contract. The NHL punished this, and of course Vancouver's still paying for it. So while Canuck fans get angry about it, I totally get what the NHL did. Because at the time the Canucks signed that contract with Luongo, everybody was saying, wow, they got around the cap, huh? That cap hit for Luongo, who was arguably at the time one of the top 3 goaltenders in the NHL, and they got him at a better cap hit than they would have. And of course his actual salary was pretty darn high, but his cap hit was relatively low, and the NHL said that doesn't look right. So over the years they've changed that, you still see instances where a team will submit a contract to the NHL and the NHL goes, no, you need to restructure this. This contract, there's too much of a variance in this contract's value. You need to even this out because sort of looks like you're trying to get around the salary cap. Which brings me to point number 2, which is the salary versus the cap hit. We get mad about the whole salary cap. This team's over the cap. This team's over the cap. The cap is a fun number to look at. So Tampa Bay for next year. This is before they've signed anybody. This is obviously before the expansion draft as well, where somebody who makes some of this money is going to go. But next year, their cap hit is already $5 million over the cap. They're already $5 million over the cap. They haven't signed anybody yet. $86,566,666. So right away, people are like, I can't believe they're over the cap. But if you look at the actual salary expenditures, according to Cap Friendly, it's $97,590,000. And this is why, for a team that's maybe got the same cap hit as Tampa, they're not as competitive, is because Tampa's paying these guys big money and not backdiving contracts like they used to be, but their actual salary's pretty darn high. So again, this is that whole everything is parity, everything is equal until you really look at it. And then you're like, okay, so in reality, this team's paying a lot more money for its players than that team, but the cap hits end up being roughly the same. How does this work? And honestly, and then what you do, so you're a general manager, and you're sitting down, you're signing a guy to a salary that's much higher than his cap hit. And then towards the end of that contract, his cap hit's higher than his salary. Well, now the teams that want to try to get to that cap hit, that they're not actually looking to spend that amount of money to get there, but maybe they need to get to the floor, they'll take on that cheaper value on what's a higher cap hit. So again, there's some definite playing around with the books that goes on here, and it's a lot. It's a lot that when you're looking at it, you realize, wow, this league makes it look like everything's equal when it isn't, which is the idea, right? Hard cap, make everything equal, all the teams are happy, but some teams are willing to spend way over the cap. Some teams can't afford to spend to the cap because they're already losing money. Which brings me to signing bonuses. So you want to sign players? Signing bonuses. Signing bonus, that's July 1st most years, not July 1st this year, but your first day of free agency, you get your check up front. You get paid. You get your signing bonus. First day your contract kicks in for that year. Might be $8 million straight up front. That's a huge difference. You invest that money, the interest you can accrue on that money is huge, and just having that up front rather than in various paychecks, huge difference. It is a big advantage. The Toronto Maple Leafs, their signing bonuses for next season, for 2021-2022, $40 million, $718,000. Tampa Bay, about $29.5 million. So Toronto's signing bonuses, first day of the season, July 1st, that's $40 million up front. for the team. So their actual salary isn't a lot of money. The signing bonuses are. Now, of course, if you're buying them out, those signing bonuses are not part of the buyout, so that makes those contracts basically buyout proof. If a guy gets paid all of his money in a signing bonus, he's not getting bought out. So that's some job security. But for an example of the difference, Ottawa, their signing bonuses, $370,000. Yeah, there's a bit of a difference there. Approximately $40,400,000 difference between Toronto and Ottawa in signing bonuses. So you can get free agents to come and play for you on a contract that may look the same as what somebody else was offering, but those signing bonuses mean they're not the same at all. You have that greater job security, and you're getting all your money up front. And number 4, taxes. So one advantage that, and again, we'll always come back to Tampa, because these are advantages Tampa has. Lower tax rate in Florida, right? So teams in Canada are going to have to deal with the fact that there's a higher tax rate. Tax rates are high in Canada. You can lose about half your money to taxes in Canada. Now, you can invest. There's obviously going to be a lot of write-offs hockey players are going to have. You're going to be able to take that salary and bring it down, but you're still going to be paying a lot in taxes. You're going to be paying a lot in taxes you wouldn't be if you were in Dallas. But again, within the states as well, you might be paying more in one state than you are in another. So when you're a team that's looking to sign players, maybe that contract looks exactly the same between Montreal and Florida. But if I sign for the same amount of money in Florida, I can keep more of my money than I can in Montreal. So I'll sign in Florida. It makes it difficult. It absolutely makes it difficult. And again, everybody's got the same cap, but they don't have the same situations. Now, the one that makes everybody mad, and the one that seems to have drawn everybody's ire this year, is long-term injured reserve. And long-term injured reserve is something that's frustrated me at times as well. And this year it's Tampa, but it's been other teams as well. So sometimes it's Toronto. There's been Detroit at times. And then that LTIR can be frustrating too when a team is taking on that money to reach the cap floor. So I have a guy who's never going to play again, but he can't retire because then I get a big penalty. So instead of that, he's going to stay on the long-term injured reserve until his contract's done, and then it's all insured and everything too. I don't want to keep that cap hit. So Arizona calls, or, Florida not too long ago would have been calling and saying, we'll take on that cap hit in exchange for this and this. I don't really have a problem with it, but I can understand why at times other people have, because that long-term injured reserve contract now is on your cap, but based on insurance, you may not actually be paying that money. So the cap hit's there, but the actual payment out of that contract, because of health insurance, may be coming through that insurance as much as is coming in through the team. And again, it gets complicated. It absolutely does. But long-term injured reserve is there. And what makes people mad is when you use that long-term injured reserve and you go, wow, we don't have any cap space. Oh, Patrick Kane's hurt. Let's go pick somebody up at the deadline then. And so I'm using Patrick Kane as an example because that happened in 2015 and everybody lost their minds back then too. So we'll go out and we'll get Vermette. And we'll be over the cap, but it's fine because Kane's out until the start of the playoffs anyways. And then they won the cup. In the finals, over Tampa Bay. But again, that loophole is there in part for that reason. Because the NHL is saying, okay, if that player is unavailable to you, well, you should be able to replace him. If you're already at the cap, well, then we'll let you go out and get a player. And then if he comes back, then you have to deal with your cap. And as we saw with Vegas this year, they played with less than a full lineup a few times. And it definitely hurt Vegas when they played without a full lineup. When they were playing 2 players short, or I think one night they were 3 players short. Like, it was ridiculous. But that's what that's there for, is so that you're icing a team that is cap compliant, and LTIR can help you get around some things, but if you're not cap compliant, your team's going to get punished. And Vegas's record, I think out of the 4, I want to say it was 4 games they played with less than a full lineup. I think they lost 3 of them. So it definitely impacted the team's ability to win games. And then number 6 here, and this is just one that comes to mind that I've seen a few times, that it's circumvention. It's the only way to put it. So I'm in Tampa. You're in Vegas, right? And we're trying to make a trade. Problem is, both of us are right up near the cap. So we're going to figure out a way to make this trade work where I'm sending you a player, but it's going to put you right over the cap. So, all right, we ring up Detroit. Hey, Yzerman, how's it going? All right, so we want to make this trade. We can't make it work. Can you take on $2 million in this guy's salary? He's never going to play for you. He's never going to be part of your organization. But can you take that $2 million so I can send him to Vegas, and then Vegas sends me this in return? And he goes, well, for a 4th-round draft pick, I'll think about it. All right, 4th-round draft pick it is. Done. It's one of those things I see that I say, I don't, that to me is kind of circumvention, because that third GM is only there to take money. He is not there for any other reason. And he'll spend that money on his cap expenditure because he's getting a draft pick out of it. But that player never played for him. You don't have a jersey retirement for a guy's cap money going through. Maybe you should. But Hoffman, Sharks, represent. But it is interesting to me that this happens, and the NHL goes, yeah, that's fine. It to me, that is circumvention. And so while everybody gets upset right now, and it's fashionable to get mad at Tampa, next year it will be somebody else. Okay, it might be Tampa again. But because right now they're over the cap, right? And they're going to have to get creative to get under the cap. And that's with 19 roster players signed. Again, according to Cap Friendly. So you want to have a 23-man roster. So that's 4 more contracts, and the minimum salaries, over $700,000. So that's $2.8 million minimum added on to that $86 million, and that would put their salary expenditures at $100 million. So yeah, we'll see how many 3-way deals we have to see out of that. But again, it's just weird, because to me, if I trade a player there, and right, but there's one thing with the hard cap, and it did it to Chicago, and now it's doing it to Tampa. Mostly this is what's happening with Tampa. It's punishing teams that are deep, that draft really well, that develop players really well, or pick up guys on the cheap. Pick up a guy from another team that's not playing all that well, or maybe he's undervalued, and it means you can't keep your team together. It is a dynasty breaker. It's part of the reason why during the salary cap era, we haven't seen a true dynasty. You don't see back-to-back Stanley Cup winners hardly at all now. If Tampa does it this year, they do it not that long after Pittsburgh, but it is hard to do it. And again, people are going to say, well, they cheated the cap to do it. Other teams have cheated the cap as well. And I say that while it's being done within the rules. Nothing that's been done this year has been outside of the NHL rules. And again, for teams that have a hard time breaking through, all of this stuff on the board makes it tougher. Whether they're in an area that has higher taxes, whether they can't afford to spend that amount of money on signing bonuses. I mean, as an owner, somebody saying to you, hey, so you have to pay $40 million in salaries tomorrow. That's a lot of money, right? So for Toronto, not a big deal. Toronto, they print money there. But again, that salary versus cap hit, everything else, it's not as even a playing field as it looks like it is, which can be frustrating for fans of teams that can't afford to spend that kind of money. But the NHL's made it clear. This is the way that it's set up. This is the way they want to keep it. And so, yeah, we'll see what happens. Now, why would I wear Rangers for this? There's a reason. When I see people saying they're buying a Stanley Cup, it gives me flashbacks to the late 90s Rangers, who absolutely were trying to buy themselves a Stanley Cup, and there was no salary cap to stop them. Their salaries, I think their salaries were 4 or 5 times the lowest salary in the NHL. Like they were I think around $100 million. I want to say $80 million, maybe almost 100, and then there were teams that were in like $15 to $20 million range for their salaries. It was ridiculous. And yet the Rangers couldn't make the playoffs because just spending the money on those veterans does not guarantee success. So one thing I will say for Tampa is that they've spent the money, but they've also spent the money wisely. And the team that they've put together being a champion is noteworthy because before we had a salary cap, teams that spent the most, Toronto was often one of the top spenders, Montreal, Rangers. It didn't necessarily mean that there was a championship team that would follow. It just meant those teams spent a lot of money. Even Detroit, we can look at them and go, well, they spent a lot of money when they won cups. They also spent a lot of money when they didn't. And Detroit didn't figure out how to win until they started spending their money wisely rather than just spending their money. So, winning a Stanley Cup involves more than just throwing money. It's making sure you've got the right roster. So, anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Or, hey, if you have another way that you can think of that you watch a team with salary cap and you go, I don't think that should be allowed, let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And, hey, can't wait to have this discussion again. Again, probably involving Tampa in October, November, December, January, February, March, April. It's probably. Anyways, there you go. Thank you guys so much for all your support. And hey, I will talk to you again soon.